Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Let's talk about sleep. I'm Dr. Daniel Barone, and today we're here to talk about sleep. What I wanted to focus this video on, you'll notice, is a different background here. Again, it's okay, same content. What I want to focus on today is a condition known as narcolepsy. Now, in narcolepsy, when you talk about it to a patient or talk about it with friends or whatever, the way narcolepsy is portrayed in TV and movies and whatnot is you're talking to someone and all of a sudden they just fall asleep in front of your eyes. Now that can happen. That there are people with narcolepsy who have that same characteristic, but in reality it's much more subtle. So the way narcolepsy usually presents itself is, let's say, a late teenager or so, somewhere in the teenage years. That person is known for needing a lot of sleep. Additionally, they also will fall asleep in class. They'll fall asleep in meetings, at jobs, and whatnot. And typically what happens is, unfortunately, this person is told that they're lazy or they're depressed or some other, thing that's at issue. And what happens is these people go along and, they try to make their way in the world, but a lot of times they have severe trouble because of the sleepiness issue. So narcolepsy really is a condition of sleepiness, excessive sleepiness, no matter how much they've slept at nighttime. In addition, though, there are other features which can kind of, as a doctor or a clinician, help us to understand or piece together a little bit. One of them are called hypnagogic or hypnopompic hallucinations. What these are auditory or visual things that people will hear or see that are not there. So people with narcolepsy will oftentimes, say, I see somebody in the corner of the room, or I hear my name being called. And, this can happen to a non-narcoleptic person, but, every now and then it's happened to me. I'm sure it can happen to everybody. But with people with narcolepsy, this happens very, very frequently. And it's also linked into what's known as sleep paralysis. So sleep paralysis is kind of just what it sounds like. People wake up out of sleep and they literally cannot move. Now, when you mix them together, right, so bad visual hallucinations mixed with sleep paralysis, you can get kind of a frightening situation. So people with narcolepsy will sometimes tell you, I have these dreams or these situations where I'll wake up out of a dream and I'll see a shadowy figure or so in the corner of the room and it's coming at me, or I'll see a snake head or something coming at me and I can't move, I'm paralyzed. Now what's happening here is very, very interesting. They're kind of, we've talked about REM sleep before in different videos, but I'll briefly digress here. In REM sleep, what happens is we dream throughout the night, but our dreams in REM sleep tend to be more action-oriented. They tend to be more emotionally charged. We tend to remember them, okay? So what happens normally in REM sleep is the body paralyzes itself to prevent us from acting out dreams. So what happens in the case of sleep paralysis is these people are waking up out of REM sleep, so they're waking up out of a dream, and their body is kind of still in REM sleep, so therefore they're paralyzed, right? So that's where the sleep paralysis comes in. But because they're kind of in this half REM sleep, half wake state, right, kind of in the middle of that, they're partially awake, and their dreams now are kind of intruding onto the wakefulness. So that's when hallucinations and things of that nature become apparent. So imagine this, they got this horrifying thing coming at them, and they can't move. Okay, that's a pretty scary thing, especially if it happens over and over and over again. Like I said, a non-narcoleptic person can have these experiences, and certainly I've had sleep paralysis myself a handful of times, but when it happens several times per week, something's going on. So again, so they have excessive sleepiness, hallucinations, sleep paralysis, and this other thing known as cataplexy. So what is that? You may have seen these kind of videos on YouTube or like shown in classes and whatnot of these narcoleptic dogs where they're Dobermans, they run around, they get all crazy and excited, and all of a sudden they just plop to the ground. What that is known as cataplexy, and that's how actually narcolepsy was first studied in the 70s, was with these Doberman dogs. What cataplexy is just as I said before, where REM sleep, the body is paralyzed. Cataplexy is essentially REM sleep intruding onto wakefulness. So, the person is going about their day, and, the person is going about their day. Usually with cataplexy, or not usually, always with cataplexy, there is some sort of emotional charge with that. So the person will hear a funny joke, let's say, or somebody will really piss them off, and they'll be very, very angry. In those two situations, okay, and some other possible emotionally charged scenarios, what the person with cataplexy will find is, I lose muscle tone in my body. Now that could be, I have a cup in my hand, I can't hold it, or my knees would buckle, or my head would fall forward, I couldn't lift it up, or, I fall to the ground, or, although that's more severe, or my face droops. As a neurologist, I can tell you sometimes we hear these stories where people come in saying, I was at a party or whatever, and I thought I had a stroke because one side of my face wasn't working, and that's part of what cataplexy can do. So, cataplexy, when you hear it, this usually is a real big red flag that somebody has narcolepsy, but not everybody does. Okay, there are plenty of patients I see who don't have any touch of narcolepsy whatsoever, but they don't have a touch of cataplexy whatsoever, but they do have narcolepsy. We'll talk in another video how we officially diagnose them. That's based on a kind of more comprehensive sleep test than simply the overnight portion. But once somebody has narcolepsy, I mean, I've seen it where people break down in tears because finally they're validated, right? Imagine going through your whole life and people tell you, oh, you just have depression, or oh, you're a lazy teenager, or whatever it is. And these people are struggling to get through the day, work, school, whatnot. So the medical literature says there's usually about a 10-year gap from the time narcolepsy symptoms begin from the time that they actually are diagnosed. So 10 years, that's a long time. Just anecdotally, I have a couple patients of mine, or more than a handful of patients of mine, that are physicians who have narcolepsy, and God bless them. I don't know how they got through med school and residency, and sometimes even in the workforce while being able to kind of struggle through this. But that's a good point, because I think what happens in the medical world, and I'm sure in other fields as well, everybody is kind of expected to be tired, right? Everyone's expected to be not feel great because you're working so many hours or whatever else. Same in other industries as well. And as a result of that, I think somebody who truly is sleepy, so i.e. somebody with narcolepsy, it's kind of, again, pushed to the side. Said, you just get through school and you'll be okay. Get through residency, you'll be okay. Or, and then finance, get through this, the crazy period and you'll be okay. And, in these cases, the person is not okay. They're still feeling the same way. So what I would tell people out there is, as I say with sleep apnea and snoring, is if there's any possibility, if you think, boy, I'm tired, I'm more tired than everybody else. Everybody I know can, work an 8 or 9 hour day, then go out at nighttime and do the same thing the next day, or, they don't need to sleep in 14 hours on the weekend and they feel fine. If this is happening over and over again, you may want to get yourself tested. You may want to go see a sleep specialist at the minimum and tell them these stories. Now, there are other things that can manifest similarly to narcolepsy. So anybody with sleepiness, right, excessive sleepiness, or conditions that cause sleepiness can potentially mask themselves as looking like narcolepsy. I keep saying depression, that's a huge one, right? People who have a major depressive disorder, they don't want to get out of bed. They just want to sleep all day long, and that can last for months at a time. So that can certainly look like that. People with severe obstructive sleep apnea, or sleep apnea in general, can, their sleep is so poor that they can wake up and be very, very tired. So we'll talk about treatments and how do we diagnose it officially, all that stuff in another video. I just kind of want to go over what narcolepsy is. One last thing I want to mention is we don't know where it comes from. Now, there is definitely a genetic component, and, when patients come to see me, I'll ask, is there a mom or dad or siblings, or, in some cases, aunts and uncles have this similar condition. Some cases there is that family association, which that's, probably where it came from, but not always. And there's a thought that there may be kind of an autoimmune thing going on here where the body is kind of, for whatever reason, triggered into attacking itself. So there's an area of the brain, I don't want to get too technical, called the lateral hypothalamus, which is on the side of each half of the brain, that produces a molecule called orexin or hypocretin. And that basically, the hormone keeps us, when we're awake, it keeps us awake, and when we're asleep, it keeps us asleep. People with narcolepsy don't have that molecule. They don't have that, the brain doesn't make that anymore. And as a result, these kind of weird things can happen. So we'll talk more about that in other videos. I just want to give this overview of what narcolepsy is, and we'll go from there. So thank you for watching. If you like this video, please click like. Please subscribe to my channel. My book, Let's Talk About Sleep, is on Amazon.com. And I look forward to answering your comments and questions in the comment section below. So thanks for watching, guys. Talk to you soon.